Hello, I'm Amy Olsen, the news anchor for DDN, Denmark's daily news. Today we will be talking about various politics with my helpful assistants, Joey, Tyler, and Lucero. Now, on to the news. And now to my report about the culture in Denmark. I went to go watch the able skiver contest this afternoon. The competition was intense, and Jeffrey Esper made a new world record and ate 107 able skivers in 8 minutes. If you're not familiar with the able skiver, it tastes like a pancake but looks like a ball. It was first created by the Vikings that were making pancakes but were cooking them in rounded helmets, making them rounded and not flat. Able skivers are one of the main dishes in Denmark, and they are traditionally served with powdered sugar and strawberry jelly. Yesterday started the annual Roskilde Festival. It takes place for 8 days in the middle of summer. It is the largest music and arts festival in Northern Europe. The purpose behind it is for the community to come together, celebrating culture but also benefiting the community. The Roskilde Festival is 100% non-profit. All proceeds go to different organizations that support humanitarian and cultural work. This festival is also one of the oldest. 30,000 volunteers are needed to help run the festival, and some have been a volunteer every year since the festival first started in 1971. And according to Mogen Sandfair and Jesper Moller, the founders of the festival, they say that the Roskilde Festival will be here for many years to come. Go. Today is the celebration of the Cathedral of Aarhus, turning 719. It took many years to build, but it was completed in 1300. It is the longest and tallest church in Denmark, at 93 meters in length and 96 meters in height. The community came together to celebrate, even though the most practiced religion is Lutheranism. Even the Danish royal family practices Lutheranism, ever since it was brought to Denmark by King Christian III, who had become a Lutheran. After he won the Civil War, he decreed in 1536 that Denmark would convert to Lutheranism, and it's stuck ever since. But even so, the Danish came together to commemorate this amazing event. Danish folk dancing was held in Copenhagen today as a way to remember Denmark's past. Danish folk dances were originally made for social and educational purposes. The steps were made to be easy enough for couples to join in. Danish folk dancing was first introduced to other cultures when folk dancing clubs were made in Denmark and eventually traveled around the world. Some places still recognize the folk dancing and have a festival featuring Danish folk dancing and the Danish culture. One of these places is Solvang, California, that celebrates its Danish history the third week of September every year. One of the most important parts of folk dancing is a costume. Both females and males wear the appropriate clothing that the Danish wore when Danish folk dancing first became known as a way to attribute to their culture. And now to Tyler, who will be talking about the EU, the UN, and Denmark's immigration systems.
Hand me the world on a silver platter, and what good would it be? No one to share, no one who truly cares for me. Some people want it all, but I don't. We're live? Like now? Good morning, Denmark. In the year 1973, Denmark officially became part of the European Union. This was due to the large economical connection between the UK and Denmark. So, shortly after the UK joined the EU, so did Denmark. In other news, in October of 1945, Denmark joined the UN. It is currently represented by Martin Billy Herman. Some of those recent pressing matters that Denmark is bringing up with the UN is problems with its citizens. These can include human rights and poverty. Establishment and security challenges are also being brought up a decent amount too. Denmark had originally joined the UN to keep security and develop friendly relations among nations. It is also tasked with maintaining peace. But now much more is being brought up in the organization due to the ideas that other countries have had shared to resolve each other's problems. In other news, Denmark's already strict immigration policies are seemingly becoming more and more strict by the minute. There are already a large number of newspapers insinuating that migrants aren't welcome. Police have also been authorized to seize cash and certain valuables from the immigrants upon arrival. They have also recently put in place a burqa ban, which discourages Muslim migrants immigrating to Denmark due to their cultural ties with a piece of headwear. The final and probably most controversial policy is one that states people in less privileged neighborhoods, also referred to as ghettos, are required to place their children in extra classes about Danish culture. This is due to the fact that most migrant parents are living in these less privileged areas. But to wrap it up nicely, today's fun fact is that Denmark is made up of hundreds of islands, and some of which are completely uninhabited. Who would have thought?
Thank you, Tyler. And now to Joey talking about history and terrorism of Denmark.
Bombing occurred on July 22, 1984 by the Hezbollah terrorists on a main synagogue in Copenhagen and on an airline. It was an apparent revenge plot, and all men involved got life in prison. The second terrorist attack was the Volsommer's terrorist terror plot. On December 5, 2006, the most serious terror operation ever was found and stopped. It was going to kill many people if left uncovered. The worst terror attack ever seen in Denmark was on February 14 through 15. The shooter fired into a cafe, killing 2 and injuring 3, and then fired into a synagogue, killing 1 and injuring 2. There was a huge manhunt to find the shooter. He was killed in the shootout, and he had just gotten out of prison a few weeks before this happened. Today, I will be talking about 3 major events which occurred in Denmark. My first event is the government pays $15.5 million for a settlement. On January 21, 1968, a bomber crashed. The Danish government had to pay a settlement worth $15.5 million to the exposed workers. The second historical event is the Olympics in Moscow. On September 14, 1981, the Olympics in Moscow occurred, and Denmark did quite well. They won 2 gold, 1 silver, and 2 bronze. The third event is the fire on a ferry. On April 7, 1990, an arson fire aboard a ferry from Norway to Denmark occurred. It killed 159 people and left many injured. A fun fact about Denmark is that some of the islands are fake. At a time, Denmark was very vulnerable, so they built islands around the coast areas to protect them from people that wanted to harm them. It's now open to the public. It has ghost walks. It's a really fun place to visit. It has a really fun background. The first attraction in Denmark is Bakken, one of the world's oldest amusement parks. It's in the middle of the beautiful woods near Japsberg Deer Park, and it was built in 1583.
Thank you, Joey. And now to Lucero, who will be talking about Denmark's schooling and government policies.
Government policies on immigration in Denmark. Denmark has always been an anti-immigrant country. They happen to be right in the middle of Germany and Sweden, which are the 2 most targeted places where people strive to go to get a better life. Denmark is known for being a really aggressive anti-immigrant place. They let people know they are not welcome, and they authorize police to seize cash and valuables from them. They don't want people in Denmark. Denmark has always passed bills because they don't want people going into Denmark. They are really aggressive, and they do not want anybody coming in there to seek a better life. Government policies on air pollution in Denmark. Air pollution has always been a really big problem in Denmark. Now, a little bit more than ever. More than 60% of Denmark's total area is being used by barley. Now, the farmers that are growing the barley use special pesticides and fertilizers to help it grow. They don't really realize that it's mostly affecting the soil. Then from the soil, it starts going onto the waterways. It starts affecting the water in Denmark. Then it starts affecting the air. More than 11 chemicals are in the air and people are having to breathe it in. So they're going to their doctors because they can't breathe normally. People don't realize that it's not them, that the air is being polluted. Farmers don't really care because they need the money for their barley. The European Union has recently put a limit as to how many chemicals they can be using in their soil because they know it contaminates the air. Denmark has recently passed that line and they really need to fix this problem. This is still a process because they need to figure out new ways to help barley grow without contaminating the air. A big protest that's going on in Denmark right now is Muslim women standing up for their rights to wear their veils. Non-Muslim Danes are protesting a new ban to ban people from wearing veils and their burqas. People that are Muslim are standing outside of police stations wearing their veils and their burqas, and they are literally screaming that they deserve their right to wear whatever they want and dress as they please. So right now, police are wishing that they could have better solved the problem, because they do deserve to dress as they please, but they are not going to stop protesting until the other people stop judging them. Another big protest that was going on in Denmark was 5,000 men and women marching on the capital of Denmark, just complaining about President Trump being elected. Now, this was not a really successful protest because no change was brought about it. But the protesters did receive a lot of people being more aware of the cause, that a lot of people did not agree with President Trump being elected. So they drew a lot of attention in social media. So more people were brought to the cause. If you're in Denmark, you are only required to go to school for 15-16 years while you finish it off. In the United States, you generally finish high school around the age of 17 or 18, which means 2 more years are added on to the education here in the United States. Only 27% of people in Denmark actually graduate from their 15-16 years. So most of the people don't really finish school. If you're at the age of 6 to 16 in Denmark, you would be at the level of primary and lower secondary education. That is the equivalent to elementary and middle school here in the United States. If you are 16 to 19 years old, that is the level of upper secondary education, which is basically the equivalent to high school here in the United States. It's only 3 years and high school is 4 years, but it equals out because you have 2 more years in elementary and middle school in Denmark. So the years of education add up to equal the same thing. They just have more years in elementary than in high school. Then if you are 18, 25, or older, you have higher education or adult learning, which is the equivalent to university or college here in the United States. The 6 subjects that are always being taught, no matter what level of education you are in, are Danish, mathematics, history, religious studies, woodwork, and needlework. They are always being taught, they just keep getting more and more advanced. Here's a fun fact in Denmark. If you're about to turn 25 and you're not married and you're single, well, you're gonna get a cinnamon shower. It's a popular thing. It's a tradition that people do in Denmark. You're supposed to be married by the age of 25. If not, it's just not okay. You're supposed to have your life together. If not, you're gonna get buckets and buckets and buckets of cinnamon thrown all over you. So maybe get your life together before you're 25. Maybe be married and have your life straightened out before you turn 25.
Thank you, Sarah.
And now to tours and facts.
Copenhagen, Denmark is the most populous city as well as the most toured in all of Denmark. Denmark is considered an extremely safe country to visit and also one of the safest countries in the world. Denmark's tourism industry creates $82 billion in revenue and 120,000 full-time jobs annually. We have for you today, folks. Thanks for watching DDN, and we'll see you tomorrow night.